Hello, this is me from the past. It's easier to report on the news when you already know what's going to happen. Straight to the point, the UK petition to stop publishers from destroying video games has reopened. If you are a UK citizen or resident, go ahead and sign it. There's a link in the description below. Now, if that's all you need to hear, great. You can skip the rest of this. You're done. For everyone else, I have context and details and what to expect. As a recap, I've spent most of last year challenging the legality of publishers destroying video games that they have already sold copies of to you. See, most video games sold can work indefinitely, even if support from the publisher ends. But a growing number of games are designed with kill switches, essentially. About 99% of them share the following characteristics. They require an internet connection to the publisher or affiliated parties to function. They are sold or sell assets as a one-time purchase, not a subscription. That part is very important with regards to consumer law. Give the player no expiration date at the time of purchase. That part is also very important under consumer law. Have no established expectations for how long they work. Remember, most video games work indefinitely, so if there's any standard, that's it. But even online-only games sold as a one-time purchase can range from a matter of days to over 19 years and counting, or patched to work indefinitely, or 1 year with no refunds. It's all a complete gamble for the customer. And they are permanently and deliberately disabled for all customers as soon as support ends. In almost any other industry, if you were to sell a product under these terms, it would be illegal. Hell, it would likely still be illegal to sell a service under these conditions, because almost all services still tell you when they end. But online video games are this special exception that have neither the consumer protections of goods nor services, right? Well, in the United States, mostly yes. There, you have almost no rights at all when it comes to video games. But in the rest of the world, including the UK, no, this is largely untested under the law. Most laws were not written for sales of video games with these characteristics, so there are huge gray areas in the law on this issue. So I've been trying to fight this legally because this business model has led to the destruction of more video games than any other practice. In my eyes, the worst thing that can happen to video games is seeing ones you like destroyed forever, especially when it's entirely preventable and might actually be illegal, depending on the country. That's currently being investigated by several authorities. Now, most of my focus has been on the EU and Australia, since they have stronger consumer laws and this sort of thing. But now we have an option for the UK. Again. Yeah, some of you may remember we already launched a petition to the UK government for them to act on this issue. So why are we doing this again? Well, what happened was first the petition committee changed the wording on it, though the new version wasn't too bad. Then Parliament gave a response which clearly misunderstood what we were asking for. In fact, they missed the mark so much that the Petitions Committee said they were going to ask them to do it again to give a better answer, which apparently is quite rare for something like that to happen. Then, yoink, there was a new election, Parliament got dissolved, and all petitions were closed. See, the original petition was supposed to last about 6 months. Instead, it was just a couple weeks, so we never got a clear answer on much of anything. Well, sort of, I'll get to that. The point is, now the UK has a new parliament, so we're bringing the issue before them again. We're not going to keep doing this over and over. It's just the government response was such a misfire the first time, it may as well not have even happened. Yeah, at the very least, this time we'll get some answers. I can pretty much promise that much. In fact, since Parliament misunderstood what we wanted the first time, we've reworded the petition to be even clearer. So if Parliament dodges it this time, that's going to be an answer in itself. Now, since I'm recording this in advance before they change the wording again, here's the petition we submitted. And before anybody gives us crap about this, you should understand these petitions to the UK government are extremely restrictive. We're allowed 80 characters for the title, 300 characters for what we want government to do, and 500 characters as to why. I call this legislation by tweet. Good luck trying to work in the core issue and all its nuances in that amount of space. I am pretty pleased with this version. See, we did a few things here. This time, we tried to emphasize there's no recourse for the customer if they want to retain or repair their game. Because I think the government might be tempted to say just take this up with the existing agencies, but at best, those are just going to give you a refund or more likely store credit if they think there's a violation. There's no provision within the agencies to let you keep what you bought or let you fix what the publisher broke. Hence why we're proposing this as new law. This all makes this question harder to dodge, or at least more obvious if they do so. We also emphasize these are games with no expiration date. So we're not talking about services where you're told exactly when they end, because, I don't know, I'd say 98% of online-only games never do that at the time of purchase. So by specifying that, that also makes this question harder to dodge. Now about the expiration date, if you watch one of my previous videos on this, you may recall that was the one helpful portion of the original answer, referring to the Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations 2008. Where they stated, the regulations prohibit commercial practices which omit or hide information which the average consumer needs to make an informed choice. And yes, knowing how long your game is going to work, I think most people would consider relevant information to make an informed choice. So this provision has teeth, and we were considering making a new petition just on this issue, but the problem is I'm only interested in this so much as it stops games from being destroyed. I've said before, if companies are forced to put an expiration date for online-only games at launch, that would hurt sales, and I think they would rather implement an end-of-life plan than do that. However, there is a decent chance that instead of an expiration date, government would just require companies to put a minimum time. Like, game will be supported for at least 2 years, and consider the requirement satisfied. That would be a complete failure and might be the most likely outcome of pursuing that route. That would piss off publishers too, since then they would be required to support the game for 2 years or whatever the number was, and it still wouldn't save any games. Nobody would win. Now I have zero reservations about pissing off publishers that are destroying games, but only if that leads to something productive. I'm not here to antagonize the industry for its own sake. So while pursuing this provision might give us the best odds of success, I think we could win the battle but lose the war. And if we're gonna lose, let's at least lose trying to solve the problem. Okay, Future Ross here. The committee reworded the petition again, more than once. Their first proposal changed the definition of the problem a little bit, so that wasn't good. So we resubmitted it. This is the final version the committee reworded it to. And that's actually not bad. It's flirting a little bit with trying to redirect the focus away from publishers purposely destroying games to giving the customer no information, but this works, and I think it's as close as we're gonna get going through the committee. Besides, this has been delayed enough as it is. And on that note, I want to temper people's expectations, at least a little bit. The UK petition is not the main column of attack in the Stop Killing Games campaign. I think France, Germany, or Australia are the most likely places we could have a win. The UK is more in the not completely hopeless category, or not completely hopeless yet. I think the UK government likely doesn't want to deal with the issue of video games being destroyed that customers have already paid for. But unlike the United States, its laws aren't so locked down that there's no maneuvering room at all. Right now, I do not know if this is a lost cause or not in the UK. If it's not, this petition will bring it to the forefront and maybe get the law changed. If it is, then the government's response will tell us that. Because right now the law just doesn't clearly address the situation of publishers destroying games after you've purchased them. Either way, let's push this as hard as we can. We should have 6 months this time. If we get 10,000 signatures, and we will, I would bet money on it, then we'll get a response from government on this issue. If we get 100,000, then it will be brought before Parliament to be considered for debate. I don't know if we'll hit that, but it's certainly possible. Oh, and I want to say right now, even if the government responds negatively after 10,000, just keep signing and try to hit 100,000. It could be they'll just try to put up a front to discourage this from making its way to Parliament. This won't really get settled unless we can hit 100,000. So if you're eligible to sign, you can make gaming history in the UK. Now whether it's going to be good or bad history, that we'll have to find out. But I'll take either of those over wishy-washy, non-answers, pretending you have consumer rights when you really don't. If we have no rights to keep our video games that we've already paid for, let's at least have the government tell us that to our faces, in print for the world to see. I don't think they want to have to do that. It's a bad look. But that's what they'll be forced to do if they don't want to fix the situation. I want the UK government to own their decision on this either way. This petition should do that. In fact, I think the main reason the industry has gotten away with this practice for so long is because no one has challenged it. At least not in any notable way. The industry has let customers sleepwalk into a situation where they no longer have basic ownership rights, and preservation is impossible on many titles. For an industry worth hundreds of billions, this is unacceptable. If you're a UK citizen or resident, go and sign it. Let's try to get something done here. Alright, that's it. Let's try to get to 100,000.